Hey, third grade, this is your math video for lesson 6.8. So today we are going to be looking at number sentences, and we are going to learn how to solve them when they have parentheses in them. Parentheses are like the little brackets that go around them. You probably have not seen these yet, so that is why we are going to start learning about them. And this ties into something called order of operations, which we'll get into a little bit later in the year. This is just kind of the start to it. So before we start looking at number models and number sentences, I want to start with talking about commas, because commas in our writing and our reading are very similar to how parentheses work in math. So if I tell you the sentence, Nina fed Tom the gray cat, there's no commas in there, and because of that, there's a couple different ways that you could read this sentence. So without commas, this sentence could mean, the first one, Nina gave Tom a cat to eat, or the cat's name is Tom and Nina gave Tom something to eat. If that's the case, then there should be a comma after Tom. Then you would read it, Nina fed Tom the gray cat. So it's saying that Tom is the gray cat, not that you're giving someone named Tom a gray cat to eat. So the way that you read a sentence depends on where the comma is and how you interpret the sentence. And when we get into math, parentheses are the same way. Depending on where they are in your number sentence will help you interpret the number sentence. So let's look at a few examples. So number sentences can be interpreted in more than one way. Parentheses are used to make the intended meaning clear. So when you have parentheses in your sentence, you do those first, and that will change your answer and change the number sentence. So here are two examples. If you look at the number sentences, they both have the same numbers, 25, 8, and 7. But when you have the parenthesis around 25 minus 8, you would do 25 minus 8 first, and then you would add 7 to get 24, okay? But then if you look at it this way, you would have 25 minus 8 plus 7. So you would do 8 plus 7 first, and then you would do 25 minus that number, which would equal 10. So where the parentheses are located is where you're trying to figure that out. So if you look at the first one, 25 minus 8, and then plus 7. See how I even say it? You can kind of tell there's like a pause, just like if there would be a comma in the sentence. So what you would do is 25 minus 8 would be 17. So this here in parentheses would end up becoming 17. And then you would do 17 plus 7, which would equal 24. But if you flip it the other way and you put the parentheses around 8 plus 7, well, 8 plus 7 is 15. So now our problem would be 25 minus 15, which would equal 10. Okay? Now, again, this is new to you. So if you're still like, I don't get it, that's why we're going to go through a lot of practice problems in the video and with your teacher. Just remember that when you have those parentheses, that is the operation you do first. So in our first example here, it was subtraction first. In our second example, it was addition. So depending on where the parentheses are, will change your number sentence. So let's look at an example of what it looks like to put a number story to the number sentence. So this was the first one, 25 minus 8 plus 7. So a number story could look like Ellie lost 8 of 25 pens, but then she bought 7 more. So 25 minus 8 shows how many pens she had before she bought 7 more. So she had 25 pens, she lost 8, which is the 25 minus 8, and then she bought 7 more. So this is where we go into like two-step number stories. You had to solve this problem first to figure out how many pens she had after she lost her 8 pens, and then you needed to add the pens that she bought. For the other one, the 25 minus 8 plus 7 equals 10, it could say Ellie had 25 pens, she lost 8 one day and 7 pens the next day. 8 plus 7 shows how many pens she lost in all. So again, a two-step number story. You need to figure out how many pens she lost total and then subtract that from how many pens she had before. And then that would give you how many pens she has left. I think Ellie needs to keep better track of her school supplies. All right, so now I want you to grab your whiteboards and we are going to do a bunch of practice problems together, okay? So grab your whiteboards for this next part. All right, so now that you have your whiteboards or a piece of paper, we are going to go through and solve these number sentences, okay? So the first one that you are looking at is going to be 53 minus 17 plus 13. So where do we start? What do we start with? What do we need to do first? Okay, so we need to solve for the parentheses first. So 17 plus 13. What is 17 plus 13? This would equal 30. So I'm actually going to try and type it down here. So this would be 30. So now our problem would be 53 minus 30. 53 minus 30, which would equal 23. So see how we did this? This 30 is almost what's replacing the parentheses. You solve the parentheses first to get 30, and then you do 53 minus 30. All right, let's look at the next one. So this next one looks a little different because the answer is before the equation, but nothing changes. You still just do 17 minus 8 times 3. Okay, so pause your video, and I want you to do 17 minus 8. Okay, do 17 minus 8. And then once you have that number, times it by 3. So let me go over. So 17 minus 8 equals 9. So then for our answer, we would do 9 times 3. 9 times 3. Which would equal 27. I'm pausing a little just because I want to give you guys time to solve these problems because this is really good fact practice. All right, so see here, we did 17 minus 8, which put 9 here, and then we multiplied it by 3 to equal 27. And then our last one on this slide is 12 plus 38 minus 15. 12 plus 38 minus 15. So where would we start? We would start with solving what 12 plus 38 equals. So what does 12 plus 38 equal? That would equal 50. So that's kind of what replaces the parentheses. And then we would need to do 50 minus 15. So 50 minus 15 would equal 35. All right, so there you can see I have the number that changes the parentheses. So this is what the parentheses become. And then you just follow through with the other problems. And like I said, just because this answer is over here on the side doesn't make it any different. You just keep solving it the same way. All right, so now just quickly, we have a few problems to look at that are showing where the answers look, the number sentences look very similar, but the parentheses are in different locations. So this first one is 17 minus 10, then plus 3. Then we have 17 minus 10 plus 3. And then we'll look at the other two. So let's look at this first one. 17 minus 10 plus 3. Well, let's look. 17 minus 10, would equal 7, right? And then you would just do 7 plus 3, which would equal 10. And then let's look at how different our answer is for this one. We would do 10 plus 3 first. Okay, 10 plus 3 first, which would be 13. And then we would need to do 17 minus 13 to get our answer, which would be 4. Same thing with these down here. 24 minus 17 equals 6, or 24 minus 17 minus 6. So let's try this first one. Oops. Here we go. So 24 minus 17 would equal 7. And then we would do 7 minus 6. 7 minus 6. 1. But we would put our answer over here. And then for this last one, we would need to start with 17 minus 6. So 17 minus 6 would equal 11. And then we would need to do 24 minus 11. 24 minus 11. That would equal 13. Now look how big of a difference that is. So we went from 1 to 13 because of where the parentheses were placed. The next part we're going to be looking at is solving a problem where we're not sure where the parentheses go. So they have two number sentences here that are solved, but there's no parentheses. The numbers are the same, the operations are the same. We're trying to figure out, though, where do we put the parentheses in order to make the answers correct? So for this one to equal 49, we need to figure out, are we going to put the parentheses over 42 minus 4 or 4 plus 11? So if we would put it over 4 plus 11, okay, so let's try that. So if I put it here, 4 plus 11, we would do 4 plus 11 first, which would equal 15. And then we would need to do 42 minus 15. That's not going to get us to 49. That's going to be lower than 49. So that we know would not be correct, okay? So I'm going to take away these parentheses. So if we know that one's not right, let's try it around the other one. If I did 42 minus 4 first and then added 11, would that equal 49? Well, 42 minus 4 would be 38. So then we would do 38 plus 11, which would equal 49. So with this one, we would put the parenthesis around 42 minus 4. That's where we would start, and then we would add the 11. Now with this one, I think these problems can be a little tricky because you don't know where to start. But the biggest thing is just try and group them. And if your answer is not right, move it to the other side. So we did 4 plus 11 first. That wasn't correct, so we just moved it to the other one. So over here, so if we would do, 4 plus 11 first, which would get us 15, then we would do 42 minus 15, which would equal 27. So you can see how, again, the same number sentences come up with different answers depending on where you put the parentheses. You will see problems like this in the future, and my advice would just be try it out. Use guess and check until you find your correct answer. Good job, guys.